I stood behind that marble pillar at my son's wedding reception, listening to my new daughter-in-law tell her friend she was going to have me committed to steal my beach house. I walked straight to the bar, ordered a double whiskey, and smiled at everyone like the perfect mother of the groom. What happened next changed everything. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from, because this story is about to get wild. The grand ballroom at the Riverside Country Club looked like something out of a magazine. White roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers casting warm light over 200 guests, and my son Nathan looking handsome in his navy tuxedo. At 63, I should have been the happiest mother alive. Instead, I was hiding behind a pillar, eavesdropping on my brand new daughter-in-law. The plan is simple, Ashley whispered to her maid of honor, champagne flute in hand. We give it 6 months, maybe a year, document everything. When she forgets names, when she repeats stories, when she seems confused, then we have her evaluated. Isn't that a bit harsh? The friend asked. Ashley laughed, the sound like glass breaking. She's 63 and alone in that big house. It's actually mercy. Plus, Nathan deserves that beach house after everything she's put him through. My blood turned to ice. The beach house. The one my late husband James and I bought 30 years ago. The one where Nathan learned to surf. Where we spent every summer. Where James proposed to me 45 years ago. I stepped back from the pillar, my heart hammering. Ashley caught my eye across the room and waved, that perfect smile plastered on her face. I waved back because that's what mothers do at their son's wedding. We smile and wave and pretend everything is wonderful. But let me tell you something about pretending. I've had 63 years of practice. Nathan appeared beside me, loosening his tie. Mom, you look pale. You feeling okay? Just tired, sweetheart. It's been a long day. Well, Ashley wants to talk to you about Christmas plans. She has some ideas about traditions. I bet she does. How lovely. We'll chat later. Nathan squeezed my shoulder and headed back to his bride. I watched him go, remembering the little boy who used to build sandcastles with me, who cried when he scraped his knee, who promised he'd always take care of his mama. That little boy was gone. In his place stood a 32-year-old man who'd spent the last 6 months defending a woman he'd known for 8 months over the mother who'd raised him alone after his father died. I walked to the bar and ordered that double whiskey. The bartender raised an eyebrow. Rough day, he asked. You could say that? I took a sip, feeling the burn. Tell me, do you believe in karma? He chuckled. In my line of work, ma'am, I've seen enough to believe in everything. Good answer. I finished my whiskey and set the glass down. Because I have a feeling karma's about to make a comeback. 3 months earlier, Nathan had brought Ashley home for the first time. She was everything you'd expect a man to choose. Blonde, 28, with one of those smiles that could sell ice to penguins. Mom, this is Ashley, Nathan had said, practically glowing. Ashley, this is my mother, Eleanor, but everyone calls her Ellie. Mrs. Blackwell, Ashley had gushed, giving me one of those too tight hugs. Nathan has told me so much about you. I've been dying to meet the woman who raised such an incredible man. Even then, something felt off, too polished, too perfect, like she'd rehearsed it. Please call me Ellie, and it's wonderful to meet you too, dear. We'd sat in my living room, Ashley complimenting everything from my antique vases to my choice of coffee. Nathan hung on her every word like she was reciting poetry. How did you two meet? I'd asked. At the gym. Nathan jumped in before Ashley could answer. She was struggling with the weights, and I offered to help. How romantic, I'd said, though something about his eagerness to answer for her bothered me. Ashley had laughed. Nathan's being modest. I wasn't struggling. I was pretending to struggle. I'd been watching him work out for weeks, trying to figure out how to talk to him. At least she was honest about being calculating. And what do you do for work? Ashley? I used to work in social services, helping families navigate difficult situations, but I'm transitioning into wellness coaching now. Social services, mental health evaluations, difficult families? I should have paid more attention to that red flag. Over the next few weeks, Ashley became a constant presence. She'd show up for dinner uninvited, rearrange my kitchen to be more efficient, and offer unsolicited advice about everything from my garden to my finances. You know, Ellie, she'd said one evening while doing dishes I hadn't asked her to do. Nathan mentioned you handle all your own investments. That must be so stressful at your age. I've been managing money since before you were born, sweetheart. Of course. I just meant with all the new technology and market changes. Maybe Nathan could help take some of that burden off your shoulders. Nathan, who'd never shown interest in my finances before Ashley arrived. Nathan, who'd asked me for money 3 times in the past year to cover his credit card payments. I appreciate the concern, but I'm quite capable. She'd smiled, that perfect smile. Oh, absolutely. I just worry about you being all alone in this big house. Alone, like it was a disease. The worst part was watching Nathan change. My son, who used to call me every Sunday, who brought me flowers on Mother's Day, who'd spent hours helping me clean out his father's study after the funeral. Suddenly, he was too busy for Sunday calls, too tired for our monthly lunch dates. Ashley thinks we spend too much time together. He'd told me when I asked. She says it's not healthy for a man my age to be so dependent on his mother, dependent when he'd been living in my pool house rent-free for 2 years. But I bit my tongue, because that's what mothers do. We swallow our words and hope our children come to their senses. Sometimes hope isn't enough. 2 weeks after the Jim Meet Cute story, Nathan announced they were moving in together into the house I'd bought as an investment property 3 years ago. The house I'd let him live in temporarily while he got back on his feet after his last girlfriend cleaned out his savings account. It'll be perfect, Mom, Nathan had said, pacing my kitchen while Ashley sat quietly, that serene smile never leaving her face. Ashley loves the place, and we can really start building our life together. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Have you thought about when you might want to take over the mortgage payments? His face had fallen. I thought, we're family. Can't we work something out? We have worked something out. For 2 years, Ashley had reached across the table and touched my hand. Ellie, I hope you don't think I'm pushing Nathan into anything. The last thing I want is to come between you and your son. The last thing she wanted. Right. Of course not, dear. I'm just practical about business matters. Maybe we could do a gradual transition, Ashley suggested. Start with Nathan paying utilities, then work up to partial mortgage payments. I'd hate for him to feel overwhelmed by paying his own bills at 32. That's very thoughtful of you. Nathan had visibly relaxed. See, I told you Ashley would understand. She's great at finding solutions. I bet she was. Within a month, they'd moved into what Nathan now called our house. Ashley had redecorated, throwing out furniture that didn't match their aesthetic and replacing it with pieces that looked expensive, but probably weren't. The utility bills stopped coming to me. The mortgage payments didn't start. When I'd called Nathan about it, Ashley had answered his phone. Oh, hi, Ellie. Nathan's in the shower. Is everything okay? Just checking on the house payments we discussed. Right. We've been meaning to talk to you about that. Money's been a little tight with all the moving expenses and my career transition. We were hoping we could start fresh next month. We. Like they were some established entity instead of two people who'd known each other for 4 months. Of course, next month will be fine. Next month came and went. So did the month after that. When I drove by the house one afternoon, I saw a brand new BMW in the driveway. Nathan's old Honda was nowhere to be seen. I called him that evening. Mom, what's up? Nice car, Nathan? Silence. Then, how do you know about the car? I own the house. Remember, I drive by occasionally to check on my investment. That's kind of weird. Mom. Weird. Checking on property I owned was weird. Ashley needed reliable transportation for her new business. He continued. We got a great deal. How wonderful. Speaking of deals, when might you start contributing to the mortgage? Look, Mom, we need to talk. Ashley thinks. Ashley. Well, we both think you're being a little controlling about the money stuff. Controlling for wanting my 32-year-old son to pay his own bills. I see. It's just that you use the house as leverage, like you're holding it over our heads. Ashley says that's not healthy family dynamics. Ashley says, everything was Ashley says now. You're right, Nathan. We should definitely talk about healthy family dynamics. Good. I'm glad you're open to feedback. Ashley's really good at this stuff. It's what she did professionally. Yes, it was. And I was starting to understand exactly what Ashley was good at. The conversation with Nathan happened on a Tuesday. By Friday, I was sitting in my lawyer's office. Eleanor, are you certain about this? William Harrison had been our family attorney for 15 years. He'd handled James's will, helped me navigate the insurance claims, drafted Nathan's rental agreement for the pool house. Absolutely certain. Both properties. Both the house on Maple Street and the beach house in Monterey. William leaned back in his leather chair. May I ask what precipitated this decision? I could have told him about Ashley's whispered conversation at the wedding that hadn't happened yet. I could have explained about the BMW and the unpaid bills and the way my son now spoke to me like I was an inconvenience. Instead, I said, I'm 63 years old. William, I want to simplify my portfolio. These are significant assets. Eleanor, the beach house alone is worth over $2 million, which is why I want them liquidated properly, discreetly. William nodded slowly. I assume Nathan doesn't know about this. Nathan assumes many things. That's part of the problem. He'll be entitled to notification as your heir, of course. Not if I'm not dead. He won't. Both properties are in my name alone. I can do whatever I want with them. Legally, yes, but Eleanor, think about the family implications. I thought about Ashley's laugh when she told her friend about having me committed. I thought about Nathan calling me controlling for expecting him to pay his own mortgage. I thought about 40 years of sacrificing for a child who now saw me as an obstacle to his happiness. William, what do you think about people who bite the hand that feeds them? He studied me for a moment. I think they shouldn't be surprised when the feeding stops. Exactly. How long for the sales to go through? If we price them right, and you're not particular about maximizing profit, we could close on both within 60 days. Perfect. Price them to sell quickly. I want clean, fast transactions. William made notes on his legal pad. Where would you like the proceeds deposited? New account, different bank. I'll give you the details next week. And Nathan, when will you tell him? I thought about that for a moment, about timing and consequences, and the satisfaction of watching someone who'd taken you for granted discover exactly what they'd lost. I'll tell him when he needs to know. William raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. We'd known each other long enough for him to recognize my stubborn streak. One more thing. William, I want you to research something for me. Of course. Ashley Peterson, 28 years old. Used to work in social services. Any particular reason? Call it maternal instinct. I want to know everything. William made another note. I'll have something for you by next week. I left his office feeling lighter than I had in months. Not because I was selling the properties those sales would hurt, especially the beach house, but because I was finally taking action instead of just reacting. Ashley wanted to play games with a helpless old lady. She was about to learn I wasn't nearly as helpless as she thought. The call came on a Thursday morning in October. Nathan's voice was higher than usual, tight with panic. Mom, we need to talk, now. Good morning to you too, sweetheart. How are you? Can you come over? Ashley's at work. So, we can talk privately? Interesting. Privately meant without Ashley's supervision. I'll be right there. I drove to Maple Street slowly, savoring what I knew would be my last visit to the house as its owner. The BMW was gone from the driveway, but Nathan's new truck, another recent purchase he definitely couldn't afford, sat gleaming in the morning sun. Nathan opened the door before I could knock. His hair was disheveled, his shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. We got a notice, he said without preamble. The house is being sold. They want us out in 30 days. How strange. Who's selling it? Very funny. Mom, you know exactly who's selling it. I walked past him into the living room. Ashley had redecorated again since my last visit. Everything was white and gray now, sterile as a hospital. I'm afraid I don't understand your tone. Nathan, cut the act. You sold our house. I sold my house. There's a difference. Nathan stared at me like I'd grown another head. This is our home. Mom, we've been living here for months. We've built a life here. On my dime. We were going to start paying the mortgage. We just needed more time. 6 months wasn't enough time. We had expenses, the wedding, Ashley's business startup costs, the cars. The cars, plural. How many cars do 2 people need? That's not the point. The point is, you can't just kick us out without warning. Actually, I can check your lease agreement. What lease agreement? I pulled the document from my purse. The one you signed when you moved in. 30 days notice for termination. William had you sign it. Remember? Nathan's face went pale as he read. I thought this was just a formality. Family paperwork. All contracts are formalities until someone breaks them. We didn't break anything. You stopped paying rent after the first month. You bought luxury cars while stiffing me on utilities. And according to my research, Ashley's been telling people she owns this house. That last part was a guess, but the way Nathan's eyes shifted told me I'd hit the mark. She was just people ask questions when you're not on the deed. She was trying to avoid awkward conversations. By lying, by protecting our privacy. I folded the lease and put it back in my purse. Where is Ashley today? Nathan. At her new office. She's launching her wellness coaching business. With what money? She has investors. Do these investors know she's been living rent-free for 6 months? Mom, you're being ridiculous. We're family. Family helps each other. You're right. Family does help each other. I looked him straight in the eye. Tell me, when was it the last time you helped me with anything? I help you all the time. When? We have dinner together. When I cook and you eat. You've never cooked a meal for me in your life. I help with your technology issues. You've never fixed anything technological for me. Ever. I provide emotional support. By telling me I'm controlling, by canceling our lunch dates, by screening my calls through your girlfriend. Nathan slumped onto Ashley's pristine white couch. This isn't fair, Mom. We're getting married. We need stability. Then get jobs that provide it. We have jobs. Ashley has a startup with mysterious investors. And you have a part-time consulting gig that barely covers your truck payment. That's not employment. Nathan, that's wishful thinking. So you're punishing us for not being rich enough for you. The accusation stung because it was so backward. I'm protecting myself from people who see me as a bank account instead of a person. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you called to ask how I was doing, not to ask for money or to complain about my behavior, but just to check on your mother? Nathan opened his mouth, then closed it. Exactly. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Nathan, the beach house is sold too, in case Ashley was counting on that for her retirement fund. The sound of him calling my name followed me all the way to my car. I didn't hear from Nathan for 3 weeks. Then Ashley called. Ellie, we need to talk. No pleasantries. No fake warmth. Interesting. Hello, Ashley. How are you settling into your new place? We're staying with my sister temporarily. This situation is unacceptable. I'm sorry to hear you're having housing difficulties. Don't play games with me. You know exactly what you've done. Finally, the real Ashley. I've sold 2 pieces of property that belong to me. I'm not sure why that concerns you. Those properties were Nathan's inheritance. Nathan's inheritance will be what I leave him when I die. Since I'm not dead, he gets nothing. You can't just cut your son out of your life because he fell in love. I'm not cutting him out because he fell in love. I'm cutting him out because he chose a manipulative gold digger over his mother. Silence. Then, you bitter old woman. There it was, the mask completely off. I may be old, Ashley, but I'm not bitter. Bitter people don't take action. They just complain. Nathan deserves better than this. You're right. He deserves a mother who raised him to be independent and grateful. Unfortunately, I failed at that. This isn't over, Ellie. Oh, I think it is, unless you have something else to say. Actually, I do. Nathan's been really struggling since you kicked us out. He's been forgetting things, getting confused, having mood swings. I'm worried about his mental health. My blood chilled. What kind of things is he forgetting? Conversations we've had, where he put things, yesterday. He couldn't remember how to get to the grocery store we've been shopping at for months. That's concerning. Have you suggested he see a doctor? I think the whole family needs professional help. This dynamic between you two isn't healthy. Ellie, the way you're isolating him, manipulating him with money, it's textbook emotional abuse. Is it now? I deal with these situations professionally. I know the signs. And what do you recommend? Family therapy with someone who specializes in elder care and family dysfunction. Elder care, like I was some confused old bat who needed managing. That's very thoughtful of you. Ashley, I'll consider it. Good. I'll send you some referrals. Doctors who really understand the complexities of aging and family relationships. I'm sure you will. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, thinking about chess games and strategic moves. Ashley was positioning her pieces, building a narrative, confused son, isolated from manipulative mother, elder abuse, mental health concerns. She was good, very good, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd warned me what was coming. The intervention happened on a Tuesday morning in November. I was making coffee when I heard cars in my driveway. Through the window, I saw Nathan's truck, a sedan I didn't recognize, and a white van. The doorbell rang. Nathan stood on my porch with Ashley, a woman in scrubs, and a man in a suit. Mom, We need to talk. Good morning, everyone. This is quite a crowd for a Tuesday. The man in the suit stepped forward. Mrs. Blackwell, I'm Dr. Franklin from Serenity Springs Mental Health Facility. Your family has expressed concerns about your welfare. How thoughtful of them. Ashley moved closer. Ellie, we're here because we love you. Nathan told Dr. Franklin about the concerning behaviors you've been exhibiting. She continued, Nathan wouldn't meet my eyes. The property sales, Mom, he finally said. Liquidating major assets without any logical reason, making impulsive financial decisions. I see, and this concerns you because it's not normal. Nathan's voice cracked. You sold our homes, Mom. You left us with nowhere to live. That's not rational behavior. Dr. Franklin consulted his clipboard. Mrs. Blackwell, are you currently taking any medications? Just vitamins? Any recent changes in sleep patterns, appetite, or mood? I sleep fine, eat well, and my mood has actually improved considerably. Your son mentioned you've become isolated, cutting off family relationships. I've become selective about who I spend time with. The woman in scrubs stepped forward. Mrs. Blackwell, I'm Nurse Patricia. We're here to help. Sometimes as we age, we don't recognize changes in our own behavior. How old are you, Patricia? That's not relevant. I'm 63. How old are you? 34. So you're going to explain aging to someone who's been doing it 30 years longer than you. Franklin cleared his throat. Mrs. Blackwell, your family has provided documentation of concerning incidents, forgetfulness, confusion, inappropriate financial decisions. What documentation? Ashley pulled out her phone. I've been recording some of our conversations. Ellie, the things you've said, they're not rational. May I hear these recordings? This isn't a trial, Mom, Nathan said. We're trying to help you, Ashley said firmly. Doctor, Franklin can evaluate you properly. Make sure you're safe. Safe from what? From yourself. From making decisions that hurt you and everyone who loves you. I looked at my son, my baby boy, who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who'd cried when I dropped him off at kindergarten, who'd called me his best friend until Ashley came along. Nathan, look at me. He finally met my eyes. Do you really believe I'm mentally incompetent? I believe you need help, Mom, and I believe Ashley knows how to get it for you. I see. I turned to Dr. Franklin. What exactly are you proposing? A 72-hour evaluation period. We'll run some tests, do some assessments, determine the best course of treatment. And if I refuse, your family can petition for an emergency commitment if they believe you're a danger to yourself or others. I looked around the group. Ashley's expression was sympathetic but determined. Nathan looked miserable but resolute. Dr. Franklin seemed bored, like this was just another Tuesday morning pickup. How much is this evaluation costing? Insurance typically covers? I don't have insurance that covers psychiatric facilities. Who's paying for this? Nathan shifted uncomfortably. We'll figure that out. Mom, with what money you can't afford rent? The important thing is getting you help, Ashley said. Right, help that someone else would pay for. I considered my options. I could refuse, fight them right here, but that would just reinforce their narrative of the irrational old woman. Better to play along, for now. Fine, I said. Let me pack a bag. Relief flooded Nathan's face. Thank you, Mom. This is the right thing. I'm sure it is, sweetheart. I went upstairs to pack, and while I threw clothes into a suitcase, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to William. It's happening, I said. Are you certain you want to go through with this? Positive. Remember what we discussed. If I'm not back in contact within a week, execute everything. Consider it done. The second call was to my bank. I need to access my safety deposit box this afternoon. Yes, I understand visiting hours are limited. This is an emergency. The third call was to someone Ashley probably didn't know existed, someone who'd been very interested in my previous conversation about background checks. Detective Wallace, it's Eleanor Blackwell. I think it's time we had that conversation about Ashley Peterson. Serenity Springs Mental Health Facility looked exactly like what it was, a place where inconvenient people got stored. The building itself wasn't unpleasant, all soft beige walls and landscape paintings that matched nothing in nature, but there was no disguising its true purpose. Even the plants looked sedated, drooping under fluorescent lights that never quite turned off. Franklin handed me off to a different doctor, Dr. Sarah Winters, who looked young enough to be my granddaughter. Her white coat was pristine, her clipboard held like a shield between us. Mrs. Blackwell, I'll be conducting your evaluation. I understand your family is concerned about some recent behavioral changes. The room was small, with two armchairs facing each other and a window that didn't open. No sharp edges anywhere. Nothing that could be used as a weapon. I wondered how many desperate people had sat in this chair before me, pleading their sanity to someone who was paid to doubt it. My family is concerned about their meal ticket disappearing, I replied, keeping my voice level. Dr. Winters made a note without looking up. Tell me about your relationship with your son. Which version, the son I raised, or the stranger who's trying to have me committed? You seem angry. I smoothed my hands over my slacks, noticing a loose thread at the seam. In my haste to pack, I'd grabbed clothes without much thought. Wouldn't you be, Mrs. Blackwell? Anger can sometimes be a symptom of underlying cognitive issues, especially in patients your age. Patience. I was already a patient, not a person with rights, not someone deserving of presumed competence, but a patient, a problem to be diagnosed. Dr. Winters, how long have you been practicing? She seemed startled by the question, her pen pausing mid-note. 5 years? And how many family financial disputes have you seen disguised as mental health crises? I'm not sure what you mean. I leaned forward slightly, meeting her eyes directly. I think you do. I think every doctor in this facility has seen families use these evaluations as weapons. I think you've seen children who suddenly become concerned about their parents' mental health right around the time inheritance discussions begin. I think you know exactly what I mean. She made another note, her mouth tightening slightly. Let's try some cognitive assessments. Can you tell me what year it is, 2025? And who's the president, Donald Trump? Unfortunately, a flicker of agreement crossed her face before she masked it. Do you know where you are? In a facility where my son's girlfriend is trying to have me declared incompetent so they can control my money. Mrs. Blackwell, paranoid thoughts. Dr. Winters, have you reviewed Ashley Peterson's employment history? Her rhythm broke again. I'm not familiar with. She worked in social services. Specifically, she worked in adult protective services, evaluating elderly people for competency. She knows exactly how this system works. She knows what boxes need to be checked to have someone declared incompetent. She knows the vocabulary, the procedures, the timeline. Dr. Winters stopped writing. How do you know that? Because I'm not paranoid. I'm prepared. We stared at each other for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression, the smallest crack in her professional facade. Good. I needed her to see me as a person, not just another case file. Let's continue with the assessment, she finally said, but her tone had changed slightly. Over the next 2 days, I submitted to their tests. Memory assessments where I had to recall sequences of numbers forward and backward. Cognitive evaluations that asked me to draw a clock face or identify pictures of everyday objects. psychological profiles with questions so transparent in their purpose that I would have laughed if the stakes weren't so high. Have you ever felt that people were out to get you? Well, when your son's girlfriend is literally trying to have you committed to steal your beach house, that's not paranoia. That's accurate threat assessment. I answered their questions honestly and completely. I even submitted to an MRI, lying perfectly still in the claustrophobic tube as it knocked and banged around my head. But between tests, I made friends. Nurse Angela had been working at Serenity Springs for 15 years. She was in her early 50s, with salt and pepper hair pulled back in a practical bun and the efficient movements of someone who had seen it all and wasn't impressed by any of it. "Your vitals are excellent," she said on my second morning, wrapping the blood pressure cuff around my arm. "Better than mine, and I'm a decade younger than you." "I've always had good genes," I replied. "My mother lived to 92 sharp as a tack until the end." Angela nodded approvingly. "Family history is important, both medically and otherwise." She lowered her voice slightly. "I noticed you have visitors every day. Your son and his fiancé, girlfriend, though I'm sure she's angling for an upgrade." Angela's eyes met mine as she removed the cuff. "Honey, I've seen this movie before. Pretty girl, older man with money, family members who suddenly develop concerns. How does it usually end?" She checked my pulse, her fingers cool against my wrist. "Depends on how smart the target is. Most of the time, families get what they want. Old person gets medicated into compliance. Assets get redistributed. Most of the time," Angela smiled, the lines around her eyes deepening. "Sometimes the old person turns out to be smarter than everyone thought." I glanced toward the door to make sure we were alone. "Hypothetically, what would a smart old person do?" She began writing on my chart, her voice casual. Hypothetically, she'd document everything. Every conversation, every test, every interaction. She'd request copies of her medical records. She'd make sure someone on the outside knew exactly what was happening. Smart advice. "I've got 30 years until retirement. Mrs. Blackwell, I see a lot of injustice, and I can't fix most of it. But sometimes I can help the right person fix themselves." She finished her notations and paused at the door. "Oh, and Mrs. Blackwell, hypothetically speaking, if a patient were to receive mail here, it would be delivered directly to their room between 2 and 3 p.m. Facility policy." Good to know. On my third day, precisely at 2:15 p.m., Angela brought me a manila envelope. "This came for you. Legal mail." She set it on my bed. "I'll need to check back in about 20 minutes. Routine vitals check." The moment she left, I tore open the envelope. Inside was everything William had promised. Ashley's complete employment history, including 3 previous jobs that had ended with allegations of elder abuse, 2 civil suits that had been quietly settled, and most importantly, a criminal background check that showed a conviction for fraud in Nevada 5 years ago. Ashley Peterson had been born Ashley Morrison. She'd also gone by Ashley Wells and Ashley Martinez. She'd changed her name each time she'd moved to a new state. There was also a handwritten note from Detective Rachel Wallace, Mrs. Blackwell. "The pattern you described fits cases I've been investigating for 2 years." Ashley Peterson has gone by at least 3 other names and has targeted vulnerable families in multiple states. The background information your lawyer provided confirms my suspicions. I'm building a case, but I need more evidence of current wrongdoing. Your situation might be exactly what we need. Call me when you get out. Date. Wallace. I read through the files quickly, memorizing key details. Margaret Thornfield, 83. Arizona. Harold Brennan, 76 Colorado. Victor Santos, 80, Nevada. Each case followed the same pattern. Ashley would meet a man with a wealthy family member, quickly become the center of his life. isolate him from his family, then target the older relative's assets. Margaret had died in a facility 3 months after being committed. Harold was still institutionalized after 2 years. Victor had been the only one to escape relatively unscathed. He'd had a heart attack shortly after Ashley began her scheme, and his son had realized what was happening during the medical crisis. I folded the papers carefully and handed them to Angela when she returned. Would you mind keeping these safe for me? Of course, hypothetically speaking, when might you need them back? Tomorrow morning. I have a feeling I'm about to be declared competent. Angela smiled. Funny how that works. That night, I had another session with Dr. Winters, but this time, I took control of the narrative. Before we begin, Dr. Winters, I'd like to ask you something. She looked up from her clipboard, startled. Yes, are you familiar with the case of Margaret Thornfield in Arizona? Her expression remained blank. Should I be? Probably not, but I am, just like I'm familiar with Harold Brennan in Colorado and Victor Santos in Nevada, all elderly individuals who were targeted by a woman named Ashley Morrison, or as she calls herself now, Ashley Peterson. Dr. Sear. Winters set down her clipboard. Mrs. Blackwell. All three cases involved accusations of mental incompetence brought by their children's new partners. All three involved attempts to control substantial assets. Two ended with the elderly person institutionalized. One ended in death. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's a matter of public record. I held her gaze steadily. Dr. Winters, I understand you have a job to do. But I need you to understand something. I am not paranoid. I am not confused. I am not making impulsive financial decisions. I am protecting myself from a known predator. Even if what you're saying is true, that doesn't explain why you'd sell properties your son expected to inherit. Doesn't it, if someone was planning to have you declared incompetent to gain control of your assets? Wouldn't you make sure those assets were somewhere they couldn't reach? Dr. Winters was silent for a moment. I'd like to see this evidence you're referring to. I'm sure Detective Rachel Wallace would be happy to share her files with you. She's been building a case against Ashley Peterson for months. Something changed in Dr. Winters' expression. Not full belief, but doubt in her original assessment. That was all I needed, a crack in the foundation of Ashley's plan. Let's continue with our evaluation, she said finally. But her questions were different now. Less focused on finding deficits, more on establishing baseline function. By the end of the session, I knew I'd accomplished what I needed to. Winters delivered the news the next morning with obvious reluctance. Mrs. Blackwell, I've completed your evaluation. While you show signs of stress and some concerning decision-making patterns, I don't see evidence of cognitive impairment or mental illness that would require continued treatment. How surprising. However, I do think family counseling would be beneficial. The dynamics between you and your son seem complex. I'm sure they do. Your son and Ashley are here to take you home. Home, to the house Ashley probably thought she was about to inherit. I gathered my few belongings and followed Dr. Winters to the lobby. Nathan hugged me, but it felt forced, performative. I'm so glad you're okay, Mom. We were really worried. Were you? Ashley stood beside him, that perfect smile back in place. Her blonde hair was freshly highlighted, her manicure immaculate. She wore a soft pink sweater that screamed nurturing and caring. Welcome back, Ellie. I hope you're feeling better. Much better, thank you. In Nathan's truck, Ashley turned to face me from the front seat. Her expression was conciliatory, but her eyes were calculating. Ellie, I think we all learned something from this experience. Communication is so important in families. I couldn't agree more. I was thinking maybe we could have dinner tonight. Start fresh. I know Nathan misses the way things used to be. Nathan glanced at her, then back at the road. We both do, Mom. I studied my son's profile, the tension in his jaw, the slight crease between his brows. Was he beginning to see through Ashley's facade? Or was he just worried I'd cause a scene? That sounds lovely, I said. Why don't you both come to my house around 7? Nathan glanced at Ashley. Are you sure you're up for cooking? Oh, I won't be cooking. I'm ordering in from that new place downtown. Great, Ashley said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We'll bring wine. Perfect. They dropped me off at my house with promises to see me soon. I waved from my porch until they drove away, then went inside and made phone calls. The first was to Detective Wallace. I'm out. When can we meet? How about right now? I'll bring backup. The second was to William. Execute everything tonight. Are you certain? Absolutely. And William, make sure the process server knows they'll be at my house at 7. The third was to Angela at Serenity Springs. I need copies of everything from my file, every note, every test result, every conversation. Already copied and sealed. I'll drop them by this afternoon. The fourth was to the catering company downtown. I need dinner for 8 people delivered at 6:30. Something impressive. Money's no object. I spent the afternoon reviewing documents and preparing. At 5:30, I showered and changed into a simple black dress, the one James always said made me look like I was about to close a business deal or break someone's heart. Today, I might do both. At 6:30, enough food for a small army arrived. I arranged it in the dining room, along with the files William had sent over and the medical records Angela had provided. At 6:45, Detective Wallace and 2 other officers pulled into my driveway in unmarked cars. Are you ready for this? Detective Wallace asked. She was in her 40s, with short dark hair and the steady gaze of someone who'd seen the worst of humanity but hadn't given up on finding the best. I've been ready since I heard her planning this at the wedding. The wedding. One of the other detectives looked confused. It's a long story, I said. But tonight, we're going to write the ending. At 7:00 exactly, Nathan and Ashley knocked on my door. I could see them through the side light window. Ashley had changed into a demure floral dress. Nathan was fidgeting with his tie. Come in, I called. There are some people I'd like you to meet. The look on Ashley's face when she saw Detective Wallace was worth every penny this had cost me. Recognition flashed in her eyes, followed immediately by fear. Nathan, Ashley, I said calmly. This is Detective Rachel Wallace. Nathan looked confused. Mom, what's going on? Who are these people? Nathan, meet Detective Rachel Wallace. She's been investigating cases of elder fraud across 3 states. Ashley's perfect composure cracked. This is ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? I motioned to the dining table where I'd laid out the files. Would you like to tell them, or should I? I'll handle it. I turned to Nathan. Ashley has done this before, 3 times that we know of. She targets men with wealthy family members, manipulates them into cutting off their families, then orchestrates mental health crises to gain control of assets. That's ridiculous, Nathan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it Detective Wallace? Would you share what you found? Detective Wallace stepped forward, her badge catching the light. Ashley Peterson, also known as Ashley Morrison, Ashley Martinez, and Ashley Wells, has been under investigation for elder fraud in 3 states. She was convicted in Nevada 5 years ago for bilking an 80-year-old man out of his pension. Nathan stared at Ashley. Is that true? It's complicated, Ashley said, her voice rising slightly. That case was there were misunderstandings. What about Margaret Thornfield in Arizona? Detective Wallace continued. 83 years old, committed to a facility after her nephew's girlfriend convinced him his aunt was incompetent. The aunt who died in that facility 3 months later after signing over her estate. That was different, Ashley whispered. Or Harold Brennan in Colorado 76, isolated from his family, committed after his son's fiancée documented his declining mental state. He's still in a facility, by the way, been there 2 years. Nathan sank into my couch. This can't be real. I'm afraid it is, sweetheart. I sat beside him. The engagement ring she's wearing, it belonged to Margaret Thornfield. Ashley kept it as a trophy. Ashley's hand instinctively went to the ring. You don't understand. These people were being taken advantage of by their families. By stealing their money, by ensuring they got proper care in facilities where they died alone while you spent their life savings. Nathan looked at the ring on Ashley's finger, then at his girlfriend of 8 months. How long have you been planning this? Planning what, Nathan? You're letting your mother poison your mind against me. She researched me, didn't she? I asked William to check your background when you started showing too much interest in my finances. I said. And yes, he found extensive files on our family financial records. Property ownership, James's obituary, Nathan's employment history. You knew exactly what you were walking into. Ashley's eyes darted to the door, then back to Nathan. Baby, you know me. You know what we have is real. Is it? Nathan's voice had hardened. Tell me something, Ashley. Was any of it real? Any of it at all? For a moment, Ashley seemed to deflate. Then she straightened her shoulders, her expression shifting from desperate to calculating. You want to know if it was real? Fine. No, it wasn't. You were a job, a mark, an easy target with mommy issues and a rich family. She laughed bitterly. God, you were pathetic. So desperate for someone to tell you how special you were. So eager to believe that a woman like me would actually want a man like you. The cruelty of her words hung in the air. Nathan looked as though she'd physically struck him. There was a knock at the door. One of the detectives answered it, then returned with a slender man in a suit. Mrs. Blackwell, I have documents to serve to Ms. Ashley Peterson. Ashley's eyes widened. What is this? Detective Wallace stepped closer. Ashley, you need to listen carefully. We have evidence connecting you to the exploitation of multiple elderly individuals. We have financial records showing how you moved money between accounts. We have recordings of you discussing plans to have Eleanor Blackwell committed. And now we have Eleanor's medical evaluation showing she's perfectly competent, plus her testimony about how you tried to manipulate this situation. You can't prove anything, Ashley hissed. Actually, we can. I pulled out my phone. Nurse Angela at Serenity Springs was very helpful. She recorded your conversations with Dr. Winters when you were trying to influence my evaluation. That's illegal, by the way. The process server handed Ashley the papers. You've been served with a restraining order prohibiting you from contacting Eleanor Blackwell or entering her property. You're also named in a civil suit for attempted elder fraud. Ashley's face flushed with anger. This is insane. You're all insane. No, Ashley, I said quietly. We're just not as gullible as you thought. Nathan stood up slowly, his face pale but determined. You targeted me, this whole relationship. You targeted my family. Nathan, please. Ashley's voice cracked, her performance shifting again. I love you. Maybe it started as something else, but I really do love you. You love my inheritance. That's not true. Nathan shook his head. All those times you said my mother was manipulating me. All those times you said she was trying to control me. It was you. It was always you. He took a step back from her. The way you isolated me from my friends, the way you made me doubt myself, the way you rewrote my own memories so I couldn't trust them anymore. That wasn't love. That was, I don't even know what to call it. Emotional abuse, Detective Wallace supplied. It's a common tactic in these cases. Ashley's face hardened. You have no idea what you're talking about. Actually, I do. Detective Wallace took a small notebook from her pocket. Ashley Peterson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, falsifying medical documentation, and elder abuse. As she read Ashley her rights, Ashley finally dropped the act completely. You think you've won, she snarled at me. Your son will never forgive you for this. You've destroyed his life just to prove you're smarter than me. No, I said quietly. I've saved his life and my own. Ashley looked around wildly, as if searching for an escape route. Then she lunged for the door. The two officers who had been standing quietly at the edges of the room moved quickly to intercept her. In the struggle, her purse fell open, spilling its contents across my hardwood floor. Among the scattered items was a small notebook. Nathan picked it up before anyone could stop him and began flipping through it. "What is this?" he asked, his voice hollow. "There are notes about me, about my daily routine, about my finances, about my relationship with Mom." He looked up, his face ashen. "You were studying me, like I was some kind of project." Ashley said nothing as the officers handcuffed her. "And these other names," Nathan continued, still paging through the notebook. "Are these other men you've targeted? Other families you've destroyed? Future business opportunities?" Ashley said coldly. "Everyone's got to make a living. Nathan, you should understand that, given your pathetic excuse for a career." Nathan closed the notebook and handed it to Detective Wallace. "Take it. Use it to find her other victims." As the officers led Ashley away, she turned back one last time. "You'll regret this, Eleanor. People like you always end up alone. At least I gave your son someone who pretended to care about him. That's more than you ever did." The door closed behind them, leaving Nathan and me standing in sudden silence. Through the window, I watched the unmarked police cars pull away. When they disappeared around the corner, Nathan turned to me. "Mom, I am so sorry." "I know you are, sweetheart. How can you ever forgive me?" I thought about that question for a long moment, about trust and betrayal, about love and disappointment, about the difference between forgiving and forgetting. "Nathan, I forgave you the moment you realized what had happened, but forgiveness doesn't mean pretending this didn't hurt." "I understand. Do you?" "Because I need to know that you understand how close we came to losing everything. Not just money, everything." Nathan nodded, tears in his eyes. "She almost destroyed us." "Yes, she did, and you helped her." His face crumpled. "I thought I was protecting her from you." "She made me believe." His voice broke. "God, Mom, she made me believe you were the problem. That's what people like Ashley do. They're very good at it." Nathan looked around the room, at the untouched dinner spread out on the dining table, at the files containing evidence of Ashley's crimes, at the home he'd grown up in. "I can't believe I almost helped her take everything from you. From us. But you didn't. In the end, you saw the truth. Only because you showed it to me. Only because you fought back." He ran his hands through his hair. "I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve anything from you." "That's not for you to decide." I reached out and took his hand. "You're my son, Nathan. Nothing changes that. Not Ashley, not your mistakes, not mine. How do we fix this?" I looked at my son, really looked at him for the first time in months. He looked older, tired. like he'd been carrying a weight he was finally able to put down. We start over, slowly, with honesty. And the houses, are they really sold? Yes, the beach house sale closes next week. The house on Maple Street closed yesterday. Nathan winced, but nodded. I deserve that. Yes, you do. But Nathan, yeah. When you're ready to rebuild your life, your real life, not some fantasy Ashley sold you, I'll be here to help. Why? Because despite everything, you're still my son. And mothers don't give up on their children, even when their children give up on them. After Nathan left to stay with a college friend, not Ashley's sister, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the elaborate dinner no one had eaten. The adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation was fading, leaving me hollow and exhausted. I picked up the phone and called William. It's done, I said. Ashley's been arrested. Yes, Detective Wallace has evidence from multiple cases. The notebook they found in her purse will probably lead to more victims. And Nathan, devastated, confused, hopefully starting to heal. And you, Eleanor, how are you? I looked around at the house that had almost become a battleground for my autonomy, my dignity, my very sense of self. I'm tired, William, but I'm free. Would you like me to come over? You shouldn't be alone after all this. No, I need some time to process, but thank you. After hanging up, I walked through the house, turning off lights, putting away food, straightening pillows, normal actions that felt surreal after the evening's drama. In the hallway, I paused at a photograph of Nathan as a child, standing proudly beside a sandcastle at the beach house. Ashley had tried to take so much from us: my property, my relationship with my son, my independence, my voice. But in her arrogance, she'd underestimated me. She'd seen a 63-year-old widow and assumed vulnerability. She'd looked at my age and seen weakness instead of experience, naivety instead of wisdom. Her mistake. Her fatal mistake. I touched the photograph lightly, remembering the feel of Nathan's small hand in mine as we walked along the shore collecting shells. Those memories were real. Those bonds were real. And despite Ashley's best efforts, they remained unbroken. Damaged. Yes, strained, certainly, but not broken. As I climbed the stairs to my bedroom, I felt a strange mixture of grief and triumph. I had won, but at what cost? My relationship with Nathan would never be the same. The beach house where we'd built those sandcastles would belong to someone else. The trust I'd once taken for granted was now something we'd have to rebuild, brick by painful brick. But we would rebuild it. Of that, I was certain, because if Ashley's scheme had taught me anything, it was this: some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. And some battles must be won, even if victory leaves scars. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Nathan would need time to process his role in Ashley's scheme. Detective Wallace would need my help building a case. William would have financial loose ends to tie up. But tonight, I allowed myself the simple pleasure of victory. I had faced a predator and emerged not just intact, but stronger. I had protected myself when no one else would. I had refused to be a victim. And in doing so, I had reminded myself, and hopefully Nathan, of an essential truth: age is not weakness. Experience is not vulnerability. And sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone has underestimated. 6 months later, I was sitting on the deck of my new beachfront condo, watching the sunset paint the Pacific in shades of gold and pink. The place was smaller than the beach house I'd sold, but it was mine, and it was peaceful. No mortgage. No memories of a son who had betrayed me. No ghosts of a husband long gone. Just the sound of waves and seagulls, and the occasional neighbor walking their dog along the shore. Nathan had called that morning to tell me about his promotion, 6 months at the marketing firm, and he was already moving up, real employment with a steady salary and health benefits. He'd moved into a small apartment, was seeing a therapist, and had started paying back the money Ashley had spent using his credit cards. "I'm proud of you," I told him. "I'm trying. Mom, I'm really trying." "I know you are." We had dinner once a month now. Awkward at first, but getting easier. Trust would take time to rebuild, but we were working on it. "I think I'm ready to start dating again," he'd said last week over pasta. "Already? It's only been 6 months since Ashley." The therapist says I need to practice having normal relationships, healthy ones. But don't worry, I'm being careful. No moving in together after 3 weeks. No joint bank accounts before marriage. Good rules. And Mom, I'm bringing her to dinner next month, if that's okay. Her name is Jennifer. She's an accountant. An accountant. About as far from a wellness coach with mysterious investors as you could get. "I'd love to meet her, sweetheart. Progress comes in small steps, in careful choices, in boundaries maintained." Ashley had been sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Detective Wallace said it should have been longer, but plea bargains were part of the system. She'd also been ordered to pay restitution to her previous victims, though most of them would never see their money again. The best part was hearing that Harold Brennan had been released from his facility and reunited with his family. Sometimes justice came slowly, but it came. Sarah Chin's father had been a different story. By the time Sarah reached out to me, her stepmother had already convinced him to revise his will and transfer most of his assets into joint accounts. But we'd worked with Detective Wallace to document a pattern of isolation and financial manipulation, and eventually, Mr. Chin had seen the truth. "How did you know what to look for?" Sarah had asked me over coffee. Most people would have just given in. I had something Ashley didn't expect. I told her, "Time to think, experience, and the stubbornness that comes from raising a child alone for 20 years. Sarah had laughed. "My dad says stubbornness is just determination that someone else doesn't like." "Your dad sounds like a wise man." "He is, thanks to you. I get to keep learning from him." My phone buzzed with a text message. "Detective Wallace, thought you'd want to know?" Ashley's appeal was denied. She'll serve her full sentence. Also, Margaret Thornfield's nephew received his settlement today. He's using it to fund a foundation for preventing elder abuse. Wants to know if you'd be interested in being on the advisory board. I smiled and typed back, "Tell him I'd be honored." It was strange how life worked out. A year ago, I was hiding behind a pillar at my son's wedding, overhearing a plot to steal my home and my dignity. Now I was being asked to help protect others from the same fate. My doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I checked the peephole, I saw William standing there with a bottle of champagne. "What's the occasion?" I asked, opening the door. "The final paperwork on the trust came through today." He held up a folder. "Everything's officially settled." I ushered him in. After Ashley's arrest, I'd asked William to help me set up a trust for Nathan. Not an inheritance, I wasn't making that mistake again, but a structured fund that would match his earnings for a down payment on a house once he'd saved enough on his own. A helping hand, not a handout. "He doesn't know yet, does he?" William asked as I brought out glasses. "He doesn't need to know, not until he's ready." I took the champagne. "I'm still not sure about this, William." "About the trust. About trusting Nathan, people in general." I sighed. "Ashley did more damage than just the money." William nodded solemnly. "The worst injuries are the ones you can't see." "Exactly. But Eleanor, consider this. You've already taken the first step by creating the trust. You're leaving the door open for Nathan to earn back your full confidence. I suppose I am. And if I may be so bold, that's the Eleanor Blackwell I've known for 15 years. Cautious, but never closed. We toasted to new beginnings and watched the sunset from my deck. After William left, I sat alone with my thoughts, wondering about the line between wisdom and cynicism, between protection and isolation. Ashley had called me a bitter old woman. Was she right? Had I let this experience harden me? No. Bitter people don't create trusts for sons who betrayed them. Bitter people don't help strangers protect their fathers from predators. Bitter people don't agree to serve on advisory boards for foundations. Bitter people shut down. I was opening up just more carefully than before. The following Sunday, I was tending to the small container garden on my condo deck when my phone rang. Nathan. Mom, can I come over? I need to talk to you about something. His voice had that tight quality it got when he was nervous. Of course, sweetheart. Is everything okay? Yeah, I need your advice. An hour later, Nathan was sitting on my deck, fidgeting with his watch, James's watch, the one I'd given him on his 30th birthday. So, Jennifer and I have been talking, he began. Oh, she thinks I should go back to school, finish my degree. I think that's a wonderful idea. Yeah, but it's expensive, even part-time, and I'm still paying off the credit card debt from, you know, from Ashley. He nodded, not meeting my eyes. I don't want to ask you for money. I really don't. That's not why I'm here. Then why are you here, Nathan? I guess I wanted to know if you think it's stupid to take on student loans at my age. Jennifer says lots of people go back to school in their 30s, but you're afraid of making another mistake. Yeah, I studied my son. The caution in his eyes was new. The humility was new. The thoughtfulness before acting definitely new. Nathan, do you want to know what I think, please? I think education is never a waste. I think investing in yourself is the smartest thing you can do. And I think if Jennifer is encouraging you to grow, she sounds like someone I'm going to like very much. Relief washed over his face. So you think I should do it? I think you should make a detailed plan. Look at exactly what it will cost, how long it will take, and what the job prospects are afterward. Then make an informed decision. That's really practical advice. I'm a practical woman. Nathan smiled, then turned serious again. I've been thinking a lot about Dad lately. Oh, yeah, about what he would think of, everything, of me. Then I reached across the table and took his hand. Your father would be disappointed in your choices, but never in you. Nathan, he'd be proud of how you're rebuilding. Really? Really. James believed in second chances. It's why he married me, after all. What do you mean? I smiled, realizing I'd never told Nathan this story. Your father was my second chance, and I was his. We'd both been married before, very briefly, very young, very foolish. When we met, we were both recovering from those mistakes. Nathan looked stunned. You were married before Dad? For all of 11 months when I was 19, to a musician who thought fidelity was optional. I had no idea. There's a lot you don't know about me. Nathan, I wasn't always 63 and cautious. He laughed, a genuine laugh that reminded me of James. I'm starting to see that. As he was leaving, Nathan paused at the door. Mom, thank you. Not just for today, but for everything. For not giving up on me. I could never give up on you. Nathan, you're my son. Even when I gave up on you. Even then, after he left, I called William. I've been thinking about the trust, I said, having second thoughts. No, actually, I want to modify it. Add a provision for education expenses. I'll draw up the paperwork tomorrow, Any specific conditions? Yes, he needs to maintain a 3.0 GPA, and the money only goes directly to the school, not to him. Sensible as always. Eleanor? Not always. William. But I'm learning. Bien. 3 weeks later, I was helping Sarah Chin pack up her father's house. Mr. Chin had decided to sell the place that held too many memories of his manipulative second wife and move into a smaller home closer to Sarah. Dad wants you to have this, Sarah said, handing me a beautiful jade figurine of a turtle. It represents wisdom and longevity in Chinese culture. He says you've earned both. I ran my fingers over the smooth stone. Please thank him for me. It's beautiful. He also wanted me to invite you to dinner next week. Just the three of us. I looked up, surprised. Oh, Sarah smiled. He enjoys your company. Says you're the only person who doesn't treat him like he's made of glass since everything happened. Well, that's because he's not. He's made of much stronger stuff. As we packed books into boxes, Sarah told me about her father's plans to volunteer with Detective Wallace's new elder fraud awareness program, about how he was reconnecting with old friends his wife had pushed away, about his newfound interest in photography. It's like he's coming back to life, she said. That's exactly what he's doing. My phone buzzed with a text from Nathan. Got accepted to the business program. Thanks for helping me with the application essays. Dinner on Sunday to celebrate Jennifer's excited to meet you. I smiled and typed back, wouldn't miss it. Proud of you. Later that evening, I sat on my deck with a glass of wine, watching the stars come out over the Pacific. My life had taken an unexpected turn, but maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. I had a new home, a son who was finding his way back, new friends who valued my experience instead of seeing it as a weakness to exploit. And perhaps most surprisingly, I had purpose. The Margaret Thornfield Foundation had already asked me to speak at their first symposium on recognizing and preventing elder fraud. Equity. Detective Wallace had introduced me to two other families in situations similar to what I'd faced with Ashley, and William had suggested I consider writing about my experience. People would listen to you, Eleanor, he'd said. You have a story that needs telling. Maybe he was right. Maybe my voice could help others recognize the Ashleys of the world before it was too late. My doorbell rang again. This time it was a delivery, a large envelope from the court. Inside was a notice that Ashley's assets had been liquidated as part of her restitution order. And there, wrapped in tissue paper, was Margaret Thornfield's engagement ring. The accompanying letter explained that since the ring had been identified as stolen property and the original owner was deceased, the court was returning it to me as evidence in the case. I could keep it, sell it, or donate its value to the Victim Restitution Fund. I held the ring up to the light. It was beautiful in Art Deco design with a central diamond surrounded by smaller sapphires. Margaret had probably treasured it once. Maybe it had been a family heirloom, passed down with love. Before Ashley took it, before it became a trophy of someone else's pain, I knew immediately what I would do with it. The next morning, I visited a high-end jeweler in town. Can this be remade into something else? I asked, placing the ring on the counter. The jeweler examined it carefully. Certainly, these stones could be reset into almost anything. What did you have in mind? 3 pendants, simple settings, one for each diamond. A month later, I invited Nathan and Jennifer to dinner at my condo. Sarah and her father joined us. It was the first time they'd all met, but conversation flowed easily. Mr. Chen and Nathan discovered a shared interest in photography. Jennifer and Sarah found they'd attended the same college, just years apart. After dessert, I brought out 3 small boxes. I have something for each of you, I said. In each box was a simple silver pendant holding one of the diamonds from Margaret Thornfield's ring. On the back of each pendant, I'd had engraved a single word: for Nathan, renewal; for Sarah, courage; for Mr. Chen, wisdom. These diamonds came from a ring that was taken from someone by Ashley, I explained. I thought it was fitting to transform them from symbols of exploitation into symbols of resilience. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. It's beautiful. Mr. Chen nodded solemnly. A worthy transformation. Nathan held his pendant, turning it over in his hand. Renewal, he read. You really believe that, don't you, Mom? That people can start over? I know they can, I said, looking around at the unlikely family we'd formed. We're living proof. Later, after everyone had gone, I stood on my deck looking out at the ocean. The moon cast a silver path across the water, a road of light stretching to the horizon. People often asked me if I regretted how things turned out, if I wished I'd handled it differently, been more understanding, given Ashley more chances. The answer was simple: no. I'd learned something important over the past year. Being a mother doesn't mean being a doormat. Loving your children doesn't mean accepting abuse. And being 63 doesn't mean being helpless. Ashley had seen an easy target, a lonely widow who'd do anything to keep her son happy. She'd been half right. I was a widow, and I did love my son. But I wasn't lonely, and I definitely wasn't easy. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of salt and possibility. Tomorrow, I'd meet with the foundation board to plan our first community workshop. Next week, Nathan would start his business classes. Sarah had invited me to her father's photography exhibition. Life moved forward. Whether you were ready or not, the trick was to move with it. Eyes open, heart guarded but not closed, wisdom hard-earned but not bitter. Being a mother means loving unconditionally, but it also means knowing when to stop feeding the hand that bites you. Some lessons are worth learning, no matter how much they cost, and some battles are worth fighting, especially when the prize isn't a house or money, but something far more valuable: dignity, self-respect, and the knowledge that no matter your age, you still have the power to stand up for yourself. In the end, Ashley hadn't just wanted my beach house. She'd wanted my voice, my independence, my sense of self. Those were the things she couldn't steal, no matter how hard she tried. And those were the things I would never stop fighting to protect for myself, and for anyone else who needed a reminder that gray hair doesn't mean surrender, that wrinkles aren't signs of weakness, and that sometimes the most powerful words an older woman can say are simply no, not today, not ever. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters, and it deserves to be heard no matter your age.